And then
Greetings, everybody.
Yes.
Sanibonani Dumelang. Greetings, everyone. Welcome to Ikhambi Natural Healing. It is Menzi, Maseko, and Nelly, Nkosi, your hosts. Welcome to everyone on the chat, and welcome to everyone live at any other platform, and to those who will be viewing us later on the YouTube channel. Please like, share, subscribe. But before you do, please listen with your soul, as some radio station used to say. But I'm sure those words are not patented. If they are, well, they mustn't sue Ikhambi. They can sue me in person, because I chose to. Nkosi, say hi.
Greetings, everybody. Nkosi uMadlamini, intombi yaselangeni. Yes, ezalwa uMasibiya, owendele kwaMashinini, oguliwe. Amagwini, greetings.
Amagwini. Yes, today we are wearing gray. We are representing the Neter, the ancient African force of nature by the name of Anpu or Impungushe or Umqaphi, better known in the West as Anubis, and we call him Anpu. Anpu is the one that we are discussing or having a conversation about today, and he is known as the god of the dead. A lot of people who have a very romantic and Eurocentric view of Kemet, they are fascinated by these issues of the dead. I know that some people, my brother used to be in a heavy metal band, who went to a lot of white schools. They are fascinated with rock and roll and other spiritual forces that come from Europe, because they have that proximity to European culture and traditions. We know in America there are things like Halloween, but of course Halloween was stolen by Americans. They took it from the South in Mexico and other parts of South, what do you call it? Not South America, yeah, South America, the continent of South America. They have lots of cults for the dead. We know that, as Nkosi and I were discussing earlier this morning, in Africa there's a lot of activities surrounding matters of death, life after death, the power of the dead, the power and their arguments and reasonings about whether the dead are actually dead. What is dead about the dead? Is it just the flesh? Is it just their bones? Are they just decaying? Are they just decomposing? Or is there a different realm where the dead, or a part of them, their ka, their ba, their spirit, umphefumulo, umoya, their energy, or a life force, does it exist somewhere? And can it be called back to life? Can it be called to work with the living? And we know that there are arguments from the Christian level, where I think in the New Testament I read somewhere that a person who is born again should not born again, the person who has received Christ has nothing to do with the spirits of the dead. There's a warning, I think, by St. Paul, who speaks very strongly. I think I'll quote it towards the end of our conversation. Speaks very strongly about, do not consult the dead, do not call them by name, because they are resting, they are waiting for the day, the final day of the trumpet. And the trumpet sings. That is just a brief introduction, because we will be talking about death today, but we will be talking about various traditions that have other festivals or rituals that celebrate, or rites that celebrate both the process of dying, the power of the dead, and the rebirth, the issue of rebirth, resurrection. And we must ask our people that are joining us, perhaps on our Zoom and on Facebook, to comment about whether there is such a thing as the resurrection of the dead, is there such a thing as reincarnation in African traditions, specifically on African culture. Can we authoritatively speak about ukuthi ukubuya kwabafileyo kukhona na? Before we do a breathing and the healer's pledge, I'd like to also just do a quick introduction by saying, yesterday, driving from Johannesburg, I was listening to a DJ, I think on Kaya, and this DJ the topic was in the afternoon. The topic was ukthakatha, and there was voice notes. People was asking people to send voice notes to check ukuthi ukthakatha. People can talk about it theoretically, but does anyone have experience of ukthakatha? Has anyone caught anyone do thakatha? Has anyone seen umuntu omthakathi? Has anyone have conversations with umthakathi? Does anyone have a relationship with umthakathi? Just everything to do with ukthakatha. I'll tell you why this is related to this topic today. So the DJ plays the voice note, and in this voice note, a man speaks about umkhulu wakhe. There's no umkhulu ekhaya. We used to have umkhulu webelapha abantu. People will come and get healed in my home. Umkhulu will make herbs, transmuting herbs, mixing them, burning in peppers, burning various things, and creating medicines for people to regain new life, revitalize their health. But also umkhulu had another side. Umkhulu wakhe also taught him how to deal with people who were troubling him, or deal with people who were offensive to the family. And he specifically said, no, I am umkhulu ubekwazi futhi nokuthakatha. And he specifically said this young man, he said, umkhulu taught me, these are his words, umkhulu wethu taught me specifically. Oh, he put it like this. He said, you know, in a typical home, children have chores. If they do a certain work, you will have chores. If your mother is a secretary or whatever, you maybe pick up papers, clean up their office, and make sure that things are neat in the office or in the desk. You'll do dishes, you'll do sweeping, you'll do cutting the grass and all that. But here, now his specific job, since he was young, before he was even a teenager, was to help umkhulu wakhe oyinyanga, also umthakathi, to do rituals, certain rituals. So umkhulu would tell him how to prepare certain things, but umkhulu wakhe also taught him how to actually raise people from the grave and use them. So that was a shock to the listening public. People sent in voice notes, say, can you send send us that person's number? We have a lot of people we love that in the grave.
GPS coordinates as well. GPS coordinates.
Yeah, we need to know that guy. Did you listen? Did you hear it?
No, I did not.
Yeah,
it sounds interesting.
People were, it's as if you know, people were asking for GPS coordinates. Where is he in South Africa? We need him. But I think he's somewhere. Maybe he's your neighbor. So people are like, we need him. We need the email, GPS, phone. DJ, we need this person because we have people that we want to bring back and we want to live with them. It brought, as much as I laughed, it brought back a question to me. Everyone was laughing. It's like, hi, DJ, you want to traumatize us again? We've listened to this voice notes already, but don't replay it. It's going to traumatize us. But it got me thinking seriously. I switched off the radio and I started thinking, when people are saying they want their loved ones resurrected or they want to bring back someone who's already, that's why I started by asking Muti, in which part of a person is dead when we say a person is dead? So we'll get into it. We'll have a conversation about that. And are you ready to get someone back? Are you ready? Are you not messing with nature when you are bringing someone that is already gone? Before we read.
No, I personally would not want to mess with the plan that the universe or Umvelnqangi has. I just want to bring them back because I have questions. I have a lot of asks, I want to ask you, and then you can go back and be dead.
So what would you do? What if that person asks you to take them back to the land of the dead? You've got
No.
you've got
Bring them back. Is there no way to take them back again? Did he not discuss that? Because I would bring them back, ask my questions, have my interview, and then once I'm done talking to them, I'm like, okay, Sharp, you can go back towards doing what other dead people are doing.
Go back and rot. No, no, listen, now another one, sorry to disturb. I'm going to another example. Another caller sent in a voice note saying, Bonabano Gogo, who's more than 110, more than 115, if they calculate. That is Nayu Gogo, like I on 107. But that's not the case. I mean, that's not the point. The point is this particular lady now says, Tina, it's not Gogola. We just recently find out that our uncle did something to Ugogo. Ugogo akaboni akezwa, but he can tell you mawungena endlini ukuthi uphetheni khona le plastikini phakathi kuwena and ingane ohamba nayo, if it's the first time leyo ngane ingena, ubani igama layo. Gogo can talk, but Gogo can't see, Gogo can't hear. Gogo is that ancient, uyasizwa nje to go to toilet and all that, but nje she hardly even eats, uyadla but akadli kakhulu, but she's just there. And this Gogo is ancient. So they just found out that one uncle had Gogo brought back because Gogo had died, but uncle find out and uncle brought him back because usebenza ngaye. So these are the things that are happening in the African worldview, which is called phenomenological African. I don't know if it's tradition. I don't want to say everything is tradition and culture when it's not tradition and culture. So I just wanted to put that out there. Even though we'll not be speaking really deeply spooky stuff like that, maybe to some of us it's not that spooky. We will discuss just after the pledge. We will discuss all these things. Just feel free to really go deep. Tell us how the dead really live. I have a book here, a novel called How the Dead Live. It's from Ireland. It's quite interesting. So ngicela sivule ama mics ethu so that we can say the pledge, and then I will start with the quotations from the two books that I have, which deal with the issues of death from a very interesting, wide African perspective. So now I shall read the pledge.
You need to start with the breathing meditation first.
Oh, okay, yes, of course. So we just take a deep breath in, hold it, and breathe out. Take another deep breath in. We relax our shoulders. We relax our body and mind. Invite our ancestors and our creators to be present with us. We breathe out. Take another deep breath in. And we breathe out. Breathe one more in. Hold the breath. Breathe out. Welcome, Amatongo. Welcome, Amadlozi. Welcome, the great souls that are here and those that have gone before us. And we give thanks to those that have paved the way for us. We give thanks to our ancestors, the ancestors of the nation, the ancestors of the world, the ancestors of our immediate families. And we give honor and praises to those who have shed light upon our way and who have brought us thus far. We give thanks and praises. Sawubona Mvulandlela, khona umuntu ozontshontshwa imali yami la uzoyithatha bese uzoyintshontsha. Ngicela uyibambe la, hamba no-wallet. Bathi uyaganga ngalo wallet. Hamba odlala. Nkosi, we shall do the pledge. I will see you later, bana. Uzobona a bit later, okay? Okay, we read the healer's pledge. The healer's pledge goes like this. Singabelaphi, we are healers.
Singabelaphi,
We are healers.
We owe our gifts to nature. our ancestors and our creators.
We owe our
gifts to nature, our ancestors, and our creators.
We live by the principles of Ma'at, Unu, Ubuntu.
We live by the principles of Ma'at, Unu, Ubuntu.
We will approach each other with respect, honesty, and compassion.
We will approach each other with respect, honesty, and compassion.
We will offer our advice, recommendations, and ideas with trust.
We will offer our advice, recommendations, and ideas with trust.
We will neither insult, dishonor, nor abuse one another.
We will neither insult, dishonor, nor abuse one another.
We will share, practice, promote, and raise awareness about natural healing.
We will share, practice, promote, and raise awareness about natural healing.
Healthy lifestyles and well-being.
Healthy lifestyles and well-being.
We will refrain from posting negative information.
We will refrain from posting negative information.
We will refrain from posting irrelevant information and falsehood.
We will refrain from posting irrelevant information and falsehoods.
Singabelapi, we are healers.
Singabelapi, we are healers.
Our gifts are a gift to humanity and nature.
Our gifts are a gift to humanity, nature.
We will give back to nature what it has abundantly given us.
We will give back to nature what she has abundantly given to us.
Give thanks. Siyathokoza, ashe. Okay, let us begin. Nkosi, are there any words that you'd like to say before I start reading these passages about this topic we are on?
Not yet, Mkulu. Not yet.
Okay. All right. Welcome, everybody. Let me just, there is something that was shared on the chat before I start reading. Maybe, I think it was Mohaile. Let me see what he was responding to. What is for specifically what you want to do, Gogo? There's a ritual that they have in Mozambique called Ukufemba. It does that trick. Okay, before I read, can I just ask Mohaile, because for me, I've heard of Ukufemba being referred to as an exorcism. Not
yes,
exorcism.
Thokozani Nkosi, and greetings to everyone on the chat and on live platforms. So,
sure.
In response to what Gogo was saying, that Yena should just bring Abadala back because she's got questions, like every one of us. I mean, every one of us got questions, you know. But there's a trick, Yogu Femba. In the Femba, there are people from high upstream in the lineage that come to the session as well. And if there are people that you are looking for specifically in your lineage, you can actually ask them questions, you know. They can tell you things and you can also ask them questions. So that was all I wanted to say in that message when I'm Kulu. But yeah, if you I mean, my 2 cents worth there while we edit. You don't want to mess with the natural process. I mean, when a person is gone, they are gone, and you know, let them rest. You can talk to them. There's means of talking to them, and they'll come back to you. They also have a means of responding. You know, that's just what I wanted to say.
That's interesting because it answers my question about when you're talking about the dead. What are you? We see there's this word spirit, which is very problematic in a lot of African settings because, of course, issues of translatability and all that. When we say umoya, we know umoya is air, breath. Mphefumulo is breath. But umoya and mphefumulo are they equal? Are they the same thing? And when you say a person is dead, are you saying lo muntu akana mphefumulo, or lo mphefumulo uhambile waya kwenye indawo. Now, you know, because I mean, if we say you want to bring back somebody, do you want to bring them back or do you want to have a conversation? The conversations we know, we have them all the time. I've had conversations with my grandmothers, with my father, even with Haile Selassie, the King of Kings. I've had conversations, proper, long. I ask questions, I get a response. Ask a question, I get a response. I wake up, I feel like it was a dream, but no, there's something about it because this conversation was very lucid. I asked specific questions, and
and they responded,
answered properly. You know, I got my answer. Sometimes I ask questions and I don't get answers. Sometimes I want Kulu to speak to me, but they don't show up.
Respond. So quickly
on that one. And I have no response. You know,
just a quick one.
Please go ahead.
On that one, what you're talking about quickly now is just the difference between a soul and a spirit, right?
Yes.
It is two different things. So, Tina, in this realm, we are a soul that carries spirits with it. And then when we depart, we cross over, we become a spirit, itongo, that then the people from this realm can communicate with through this several available means. Ngokupahla, through these fembas, through dreams, and many other ways of doing that. So we need to understand it at that level. It is a difference between the soul, a soul and a spirit. That was what you were talking about right now.
Can I maybe throw in something there as you say speaking about that? Is that if you're saying this, then the question then comes, then does it then mean in African spirituality we cannot speak about reincarnation?
A quick one, yeah? Last week here we had a guy that he called himself Owembe Tegamajodina. Yeah? So a quick one on Ugumbata. Ugumbata has got several meanings. One of those meanings is that that person was born Mbete, bringing back one of the elders that had unfinished business in this realm. So we are able to have our Abadala back through our children, and through our children they then attempt, they have another shot at closing a particular project that they meant to do while they were in this realm. Reincarnation ikona gogo, and it is through our children. We in African spirituality, we are not waiting for a day when there's going to be a trumpet. No. That business is underway as it is right now. We are in our own homes. We are raising Abadala that have come back to do certain things. Others are new spirits that have entered the cycle. Others are old. You hear a person sometimes say, "I'm an old soul." When they say that, that means that they have seen certain things. That means that they have come back. In short, when I go.
I understand, but and then it comes to then how do we then we're talking to those that have passed on.
Yes.
How do you then now know that no, this person, you can't call them there on the other realm. This person is here. They've reincarnated.
Yes,
and a lot of questions.
And like in my house specifically, I've got my grandfather here, a man that gave birth to my grandmother, right? So when I address this young man,
he gave birth to your mother, or you gave birth to your grandmother?
My grandmother that gave birth to my father.
Okay.
That Nkulu is here in my house right now. So when I address him, ngimbiza ngokhetha umkhulu, yabo. And that is just the process. We are not waiting for the trumpet. That business is underway already. We are dealing with it already. It's underway.
Okay. Giannis. Brother Zamalek does anything to say right now before I read these passages? Oh, will you wait?
What he has to say.
No response.
You can go into it.
Let's first ask him, because he's here. Kulo, brother.
He might be making coffee or something. I don't think he's hearing you.
Okay, it's fine. He will come back if he's here. But I want to read something from a very okay? When I get ngiyeza manje ngizodila nomvelo manje vala umnyango. So I try not to log, but sometimes they respect, sometimes they don't. There's a book here by Ben Okri, Beloveds. And the reason I opted to read some passages from these two particular books is because there is this issue about, when I was meditating about Anpu in my prayer room, and I am thinking to myself, we as African people, we are really fascinated a lot by death. Death, since the ancient times of ancient Kemet, and even before that, there are cults dedicated, there are different, for example, in Kemet, we talk about Anpu as a god of the dead. Osa is the god of the dead. And there are many others. Neptis herself has a element of being a nether of the dead. So the dead have a very high and specific position in our cosmology, African cosmology. And in a way beyond Kemet, if you go to West Africa, they have elaborate rites of passage for the dead. When I'm from KwaZulu, there is an elaborate specific ritual done when a person has recently died, 3 months after they died, 6 months after they died, a year after they died, sometimes 3 years after they died. Siyawazi Maseko, we've spoken about it like a camp. There was Mama Ukoko Nozipo who came here and spoke about the different kinds of Nkosi and the things that are taboo to do and things that can be done by females and things that cannot be done by females and things that cannot be done by certain people and different trees that are used. I think Mama Nozipo, I think I will share that again. She spoke a lot about the issues of Ubuyisa and Nkosi and what her father taught her about issues of death and rebirth and things like that, And she even specifically said that how she got her name. Her father said, when you are Oset reborn, Isis reborn. That's why her nickname is Isis, So these are the things that I wanted to touch about. But I chose literature because in literature somehow manages to dramatize some of the things that we live with, conversations that we have as African people globally, Black people globally. We have conversations about death that are really, really deep and that require a little bit more investigation. So let me just read you a paragraph from Ben Okri's famous book, The Famished Road. Listen very carefully. It's again. In the beginning, there was a river. The river became a road, and the road branched out to the whole world. And because the road was once a river, it was always hungry. In that land of beginnings, spirits mingled with the unborn. We could assume numerous forms. Many of us were birds. We knew no boundaries. There was much feasting, playing, and sorrowing. We feasted much because of the beautiful terrors of eternity. We played much because we were free. And we sorrowed much because there were always those amongst us who had just returned from the world of the living. They had returned inconsolable for all the love they had left behind, all the suffering they hadn't redeemed, all that they hadn't understood, and for all that they had barely begun to learn before they were drawn back to the land of origins. So I was describing it, this is a dead person describing the land of the dead as the land of origins. There was not one amongst us who looked forward to being born. We disliked the rigors of existence, the unfulfilled longings, the enshrined injustices of this world, of the world, the labyrinths of love, the ignorance of parents, the fact of dying, and the amazing indifference of the living in the midst of the simple beauties of the universe. We feared the heartlessness of human beings, all of whom are born blind, few of whom ever learn to see until they return. So I wanted to just read that passage and then skip to a different passage now from a novel by a Jamaican called Marlon James, a book called A Brief History of 7 Killings. Listen to this. So it's a book basically about the various meditations about the death of Bob Marley, how Bob Marley died, and the various theories around it. It's a novel. So it's a historical fiction, so-called historical fiction. Itilang Emuva, 7 gunmen storm Bob Marley's house, machine guns blazing. The reggae superstar survives, but the gunmen are never caught. So some of these gunmen, some of these chapters in this book are basically these gunmen talking about how he ended up dying from a disease and not dying from us after we've been hunting him for so long. And now listen to this. So the book goes like this. This is the first chapter. Listen. It's in the book. It's not me saying listen, but listen. Dead people never stop talking. Maybe because death is not death at all, just a detention after school. You know where you are coming from and you are always returning from it. You know where you are going, though you never seem to get there and you are just dead. Dead. It sounds final, but it's a word missing an ing. You come across men longer dead than you, walking all the time, though headed nowhere. And you listen to them howl and hiss because we are all spirits, or we think we are all spirits, but we are all just dead. Spirits that slip inside other spirits. Sometimes a woman slips inside a man and wails like the memory of making love. They mourn and they mourn and keen loud, but it comes through the window like a whistle or a whisper under the bed. And little children think there's a monster. The dead love lying under the living for 3 reasons. The dead love lying under the living for 3 reasons. 1, we are lying most of the time. 2, under the bed looks like the top of a coffin. But 3, there is weight, human weight on top that you can slip into and make heavier. And you listen to the heartbeat while you watch it pump and hear the nostrils hiss when their lungs press air and envy even the shortest breath. I have no memory of coffins. I died, but I never entered a coffin. But the dead never stop talking, and sometimes the living can hear us. This is what I wanted to say. When you are dead, speech is nothing but tangents and detours, and there's nothing to do but stray and wander a while. Well, that's at least what others do. My point being that the expired learn from the expired, but that's tricky. I could listen to myself, still claiming to anybody that would hear that I didn't fall. I was pushed over the balcony at the Sunset Beach Hotel in Montego Bay. But if no one can hear me, no one will ever know that I was pushed. Everybody thought I just fell. Now, so what I am reading here are just purely fictional renditions of people who are dead talking, telling a story of what's going on. And this one is a bit more hardcore. It's very harrowing, deep story of killers, basically, who have died, either by accident or whatever. The people that came to kill Bob Marley, later on they died too. Some were assassinated, some don't know how they died. So now in the stories, they are talking to the living who would say, Kuganjela, you know. Now, Anpu, returning back to Anpu. Anpu is known as the foremost of Westerners. Apparently, Anpu was the first, before Osa, to be given the title foremost of Westerners. We know that the Westerners, the term itself, it means the underworld, right? The underworld, the place of the dead, the place where people are buried. He's known as the god of mummification and decay. We spoke last time, Ikhambi, about transmutation of medicines. Umuti, I think Nkosi will touch upon this a lot, a bit, on the issue of umuti is dried, is ground, is almost killed, so that we can bring back its life, so that we can get some life out of it. There's, we think it's not killed maybe, but there's a certain level of putrefaction, decay, decomposition that happens, and then life out of the decomposition happens. I just wanted to touch on that, and without further ado, without saying too much, there was something else here that I wanted to just read. I did say I'm going to be reading a lot more than just discussing. Everyone else can just talk. The issue of decomposition, listen to this part from a book called Sickness and Death. The disgust aroused by decomposition's telltale order is a way of bringing the imagination into the body, especially the lower tracts, the bowels of the earth, and finally the underworld itself. In these depths, the elements commingle, boundaries blur in an unsettling way. Opposites find their common ground in human emotion. And in this repulsive mire, they are reborn. So there's something about death which tells us something about birth. There is something about death which tells us something about life and the living. In your thinking, my people, what are we being taught here by all these traditions about death and by all these stories about? Is just a fascination? Is it because we are fearful of death that we have to compose so many stories about it? Or is it because we live with death every day? What is our fascination with death?
Nkulu, as you were actually talking, in terms of when you're talking about decay, I actually thought about the herb preparation methods, since you already had mentioned it. So the herb preparation method is, it's some herbs, they need to be dried up so that and then they would have to go through an oil maceration, or they will have to go through put in through alcohol or vinegar for it to extract the healing properties of it. But in essence, it had to come for that plant in order for us to be able to extract the healing properties for our body. So it therefore depends on what you mean by death. But at the same time, if there's a process where you can't use the herb, and like if a plant dies and the body becomes in a certain way, you can't use it. For instance, if the plant was to die and mold started growing around it, there's certain plants that I can't use it. So therefore now its death is in vain, because it died and then it rotted. I don't know if it makes sense. But then the other one also died, but it dried up in as in English is very limiting, and anybody who actually understands what I'm trying to say can help me out here. So there's two deaths, where the one starts developing mold and the other one gradually dries up, and it can actually be reused for medicinal purposes. And the other one, the death has become, and I'm just thinking that, could it be in our bringing it back to us as humans, that is it not possible that the same theory could therefore be used, that like where death comes, and if it's not in a controlled environment, it therefore the death becomes in vain. I don't know if it actually makes sense. And then the other type of death would therefore means to bring back life.
Okay, makes sense, to bring back life. Mohaile asked a question here about where did Ben Okri get those passages. Ben Okri is a storyteller, my brother. So he uses his imagination, but also, as most of us who write stories, we also use information that we find in our environment, either something that we read about, or stories that we've heard from our people, either from our environment or from, like when I say environment, I mean everything from tradition to folk tales that you grow up around. Now, Ben Okri is Nigerian, living in, I think, in the UK, in Scotland, if I'm not mistaken. So he writes a lot of books which have been termed magical realism. So in this style, basically, anything is possible, especially in this book, The Famished Road. As you heard, in the beginning, there was a river, and the river became a road because the road was always hungry. I mean, because the road was once a river, it was always hungry. So it's imagery that is used here to depict how things that may be termed inanimate can also have a what can I say? They have not attitudes, but they have what's the word?
Persona.
Yeah,
they
can be personified. Yes, they can be personified. You know, which is interesting. Now we have to get back again to Anpu. Look, besides Ben Okri, I'll go back to Ben Okri. Ben Okri writes stories where animals talk and butterflies are magical. They are magical butterflies and all things. And all of this is just symbolic. Now look, in ancient Kemet, when the priest went to embalm the pharaoh, the living priest who's a human being, they would wear a mask. They would wear the mask of Anpu. The only priest, there was one priest that will go in. While others have done everything, the surgical part of removing the different parts of the heart and of the liver and other parts and putting them into these containers, right? That were named also, Imset or what and what and what and what. Duamutev, Kepsunev, named after the sons of Horus, the sons of Heru, right? Anpu would deal specifically with the heart before it is written, with the heart, right? Dealing with the heart and also dealing with the breath. And what I'm saying now, I don't want to go deep into the ritual, how the ritual was done. Everyone can read about it. But the point here is that Anpu, the priest, will come personifying Anpu. But why Anpu? Why not a different kind of, why Impungushe, basically? Why not a different kind of animal? Why not a different kind of mask? Why does the person doing the mummification and the embalming of the body, why doesn't he wear Nephthys mask? They wear Anpu mask because, according to some stories, people can correct me, according to how Anpu became so venerated so much early in ancient Kemet, in the places where there were graves, in the desert places, in the highlands in Kemet, they would see a lot of jackals circling around the places where there are dead people, where there were graves, right? So early on, and they said that the tradition came from Sudan. They used to see this in Sudan, where the people were buried. There would be lots of foxes, black foxes, a specific black fox that existed around that era. So Anpu came from that, and then was elevated slowly, and taken into the traditions and the theurgy of ancient Kemet. And then you will find that almost everyone, whether they are nobles, whether they're kings or not kings, people will have little statues of Anpu, either at the graves or at their homes, so they can, because of the different other qualities that Anpu carries. We can maybe talk about them again later. There's different qualities that Anpu is spoken about. Meditating through Anpu can help guide those who are lost, in the land of the living, also guide those who are lost in the land of the dead. So there are those things. So, but people will wear the mask of Lokuzana. So it's kind of like a magical, ritualistic work depicting Anpu, but the priest himself has to wear Anpu, and there are certain rituals that the priest has to go through before they do the embalming, and there are certain rituals that you have to do before you even do the prayers that evoke the dead.
Yeah, I have a theory here, cool. Give me the floor. So the theory I have, and it comes from all the literature that I've read, and and I've taken that literature, mapped it into the animal itself. A jackal is a dog, is of the dog family. right?
Yes.
And we all know how loyal the dogs are to their masters, right?
Mm.
It is unparalleled. A cat,
Absolutely.
other pets that you'd have, the loyalty you get from your dog is unparalleled.
Mm.
And specifically, Anpu was put at the gates of this realm. At, let's call it heavens for now, for the facilitating of this discussion. Because Umvelingangi only takes in those that are clean. Yeah? They have got Anpu at the gate to return those that needed to come get their affairs right. At your yard, get a dog. A dog will screen the bad ones out of the good ones. It does that without thinking about it. It is its natural wiring. That is its inherited capability. A dog will just play with a good guy when they walk in. A dog can tell a bad guy approaching from a mile away. So the reason we have got Anpu at the gate, it is about his loyalty to the upper powers. If you do not have your affairs in order in this realm, you do not make it into the next realm. And that is the known truth. That is why hi harobala, you know, akalalanga umkhulu uthe simenzele kanje na kanje na kanje. Yabo? Anpu has shown him back to say, in fact, please go back and fix this, that, and the other. It comes from the loyalty that Anpu inherently has to Ramasedi and the other powers that are above him. When you go to the Great Empire of Kemet, go Orlando, they've got a drawing on one of their walls, a brief, where they capture the funerary proceeding. You have got to welcome a soul. Ne? He has him by a hand, and he's going with him towards this. They're walking towards the scales, where Uma'at does the assessments. And it is with the help of the scales through which Anpu can tell whether you are going through or you are going back. And he will not be bright, or you will not do any other thing to go through if you do not qualify. He sends you straight back. And that is where the jackal comes from. It is out of the dog family. It is the capabilities of the dog. It is the loyalty of the dog towards the master. And that's what
Are you saying that the dog has good judgment?
I am saying the dog element brings no. From the dog, all we get is the loyalty. That is why Uma'at is standing there with the scales. So without Uma'at, Anpu is unable to fulfill this role to perfection. Anpu himself cannot do the assessments. That is why Uma'at is standing right in front of him with the scales. Anpu approaches with you by hand towards the scales. And Uma'at allows him the scales. If the scales reject you, Anpu will not do any other thing but sends you back.
Maintaining the cosmic order.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Give thanks.
So that is where Abba Ingwele comes from. Abba Baba Khetwa ka Setswana ba Sepedi. Abba Ingwele ngesinguni. Abba Ingwele will go through. Tinabanye.
What do you mean? Can you go deeper about what do you mean ubungcwele? What are you talking about?
Those that have
excuse me, let me just ask this like this.
Yeah.
Innocence and holiness, are they interchangeable?
Innocence and holiness.
Because I'm trying
I need to be careful with my answer here.
What does ubungcwele mean?
ubungcwele when I'm cool, ne? You know, we use what we call letswalo, kaspedi, ne? Unembeza ngesinguni.
The conscience.
Yes. Umuntu oyingcwele, umuntu ohlokileng, their nembeza is light, ne? And if you've gone to a few healers different healers when I'm cool, you will know this. Another healer, once they throw bones on or they do their whatever ritual to divine, ne, they might ask you this question. It's always a very specific question. Why are you so heavy? Why is your why let's allow a little wima so? Why unembeza wako or sinda kangaka or something to that tune? If you've got issues to deal with, they will ask you that question. You always know upfront if ungcwele or you are not. So the only thing is it's something you can achieve and something you can lose. You can do certain things to lose it, and you can do certain things to get it back or achieve it. So
Okay.
we are, while we are on this realm, we are interchanging between being clean and dirty. If I could use those two words.
I
Okay.
will
tell you later why I think that is a bit simplistic, but I will go back.
Okay, thank you.
I want to argue with you. Let's hear what Zamalek has to say. But go.
Would you say, Mkulu, that the language is now becoming a bit of an issue because ungcwele means something else? I
was specific. I said it means holiness.
Yes. So it's not quite.
innocent.
Yeah. So it's not quite so because you know why I say it becomes a language issue because the scales of my art, they weigh your heart against the feather. It does not necessarily mean that your actions, you're a pure person. I don't know if it actually makes sense what I'm saying, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're.
Tell us with Mohaile to the issue of my art. I want us to talk about that hall specifically soon after Zamalek has spoken. I want us to talk about the hall of truth and the presence is in that hall of truth or the hall of judgment. I would like us to not to argue really, I was joking. I would like us to speak about what is happening there. What is the role of each netter and what is the role of Zamalek, greetings.
Ndoshin, Ninochid. Now I'm wishing Umunu Koshna Amuno Nomo. Nipili danger. Okay. Nyazwa maskuluma sukuluma ngo Anpu. Bengamuthi sibongena kahle. Silande sijule ngakwesiko in our own traditional aspect. But now I found ourselves roaming into all these foreign aspects, how Africa
we wish we could hear you. We are Ngamuga, but you can bring us back. It's better to bring us back to the traditional way that you are speaking about. But your sound somehow.
Yes, because there's a problem here. Maybe there's a problem of my network. There's a lot of helicopters.
But Kubega, take us from the source of what is traditionally and what is.
Okay. Yeah. What I wanted to say is that the perspective, the problem when we don't want to listen, we're not going to learn. We were told that our perspective, it has been distorted, which means we have already promulgated a system of foreigners, colonials aspect of what is going on in Africa. And I like when you quote Ben Okri. Ben Okri, there's where he quotes that he uses the understanding of Oko in his Nigeria tribe. He uses the understanding of Oko through the perspective of intertwine, meaning a dichotomy of both world, Western world and then African world. And then when we go to Seli Aniti said in Nigeria again, he said that that reference doesn't give any true aspect or value towards what is African. Because we normally throw these concepts without even understanding. That is what they are saying, these guys. Chris trying to say he can use this both world, but this other one, Seni, is saying he can use the only world. That is the world that we're trying to talk about, what Baba Credo Mutwa used to teach us. In the Bantu system, we have a saga. One of the saga is the Bagandi saga in Uganda. They talk about Nana and Wakimba. Nana gets to marry Wakimba. She's from heaven. And then she has a jealous brother, Wangungu, who became the jealous indignity within this relationship. And then the Wangungu is identified as a god of the dead and is given the image of a jackal. And then it is said that Wangungu used to take care, meaning if you die, he take care of you. Either he take care of you physically, as far as you have alluded to the Sudan aspect of the tradition, where in Sudan they tell you about jackals taking care of the metropolitan, or what we can call it, a metropolitan city, graveyards. The graveyards, they used to have jackal because jackal were hired, not domesticated, similar to dog. In a manner where we domesticate a dog, dogs were domesticated of canine, fogs, pungushe, whatever you call them, of the graveyard. The caretakers, now these caretakers of the graveyard studied Anubis scholars, people who follow through to Anubis. That is why in Africa we have people who bury, who do this burial ceremony, not the Catholic aspect, the ones who come and do all these burial ceremonies, and they will tell you what is specifically needed to have that particular ceremony. And going to talking with that, since Anubis will be the one that when we talk about the Lord of the 9 arrows, and since he's the Lord of the 9 arrows, he must be the master of the dead. And then he's got the master of the 6, which means this person has secrets. It is not. And when we relate it to the myth, son of Ra in the old dynasty, in records, and then in the new Primilian dynasty, he becomes a son of Osiris, which means Osiris has to take over. And then in the newest dynasty becomes the son of, like we're in the third intermediate, he becomes the son of Seth. So when we see the changes, we get to have to understand the perspective of the people who are living there. Those perspectives is because of their cultural and traditional aspects and differences, and their differences come within their dynastical origins, and they have their histories of understanding the sagas, but it's the same pantheon, and this same pantheon are gods. It doesn't mean that Anubis is a lesser god. That apply to the Greek mythology. In Greek mythology, Hades has this dog called the Cerberus, the 3-headed dog. And the 3-headed dog becomes the high guidance and symbiology within Hades' administration in the underworld. So we need to, that is why people think Anubis was in the gate. No, that is a Greek mythology. Anubis, when you wake up in the dead, meaning when you lose the decay, that is why Anpu means decay. When your body decays, now you go into the other realm, meaning you are no more attached to the body. When you are no more attached to the body, you are attached to the spheres of your existence through spiritual means, and what we can call it energy or vortex, whatever people want to identify. But at the end of the day, you become attached to that, and you become attached no more to material, meaning the body will decay, it will smell, it will have all those things. So Anpu was the administrator of that period. death itself, when you study it, it has 5 decomposition stages of men, where men decay. These are dead, before you assume the practical aspect of it, of what is dead. And in its other realm, it has other extra 4 decaying stages that happen in the energy system. That is why he's called the Lord of the 9 arrows. And he has become what we call in those stages an administrator of those decaying stages. And then when one, they are aligned to the truth of the principles, since he's part of the principles of the dead while you are living, and you are connected with the dead while you are living. So he's going to be part of your guidance that exists even while you are still living. That is why in Africa we have a tradition of communion with the dead, because this communion of the dead, it's because we are aligned to Nenja Ebomvu. It is why we have Inje Bomvu, the talks of Inje Bomvu, and the saga about the black dog, Inje Mnyama. Both of them, the black dog and the red dog, it's a saga that has been told that in the Zulu, that they stole a secret chemistry of men when man was promised immortality. Then the story, when it's alluded in the public, it's told through a chameleon and a rabbit, you know. But when it's told secretly, it is told through a means of a locary system of explaining this jackal having access of knowing that we're going to die, and then he's the one who comes after. But the first person who comes after now is the one that was slow. That is why it is said it's the tortoise that is carrying the galaxy, that is carrying planet Earth. And then when you read into the sagas, it is said Umvelikanga plays with the tail of the turtle, and Unomkubulwane has already made the turtle a trunk out of Umkomboti, because the turtle is tired to take over the galaxy or to carry Earth in the spaces of us being in planet Earth. And then this tortoise has much to deal with the immortality. That is why it is slow to some others and all those things. And then the jackal has much to deal with that, because it has much to deal with the decaying. Hence why he's a master and the lord of these 9 arrows and the 4 barrier, or the foremost one of the Western lands. And then when we talk about Western land, we are talking about the setting of the sun. The sagas in Egypt says the gods, even in Africa, they tell you that the gods, when they came up from the sky, you go to the Dogons or whatever you want to, you must refer as reference. But at the end of the day, when they talk about the gods, they tell you that the gods came from the West, which means they experience the phenomenon of the gods descending from the sky. When the sun set, it doesn't mean they came from the West. It means they experiment the phenomenon when the sun set. So decaying has that symbiology with the sun, that it is setting. That is why in our language, so to shoni, nelanga lienzani liyashona. That is why ukshona, it doesn't mean it's a death of the person, which means they may be living somewhere in as light somewhere. And then to be living somewhere as light, they will be guided by this dog. Now apply to the faithfulness of the dog that you talk about, Mukhali, that the dog is loyal. That loyalty, it's that the dog will still continue to guide you. Because even now, when we talk about a dog's importance within the human body, it's going to take us a lot. But the same thing that is used in Egypt, it's the same language of the communication. And then that language, we get it through Mwamweb, the brother of Anubis. The brother of Anubis, he has the same head as Anubis, the jackal head. He has the same qualities as Anubis. He's reside on the dead. And he has the same similar principles, but as a hunter now, he becomes what we call a helpers of hunters. They pray, all hunters, they pray to this, like Umbengu, when you come to the south, we call him Umbengu, greatest hunter. you know. So these same attributes, same similarity, because when you go and hunt and we go to war, because he was residing even in war, and when we go to war, there's an experiment or the phenomenon called death that will happen there. So that is why he becomes now a relator and someone who relates with Anubis, and in that relation as brothers, like people who are close together. So we learn a lot from such thing. And then when we talk about reincarnation, it's something that is known in Africa. It is known secretly because it's not a public story. It's not like everybody will know was an Anubis custodian or initiate, or Daudi, if we can put it like that, or Mahat initiate. It is the same secrecy that has been done as Izangoma. Not everybody knowing what is going on to Izangoma system, even having confusion. So even in Egypt, in Kemet, it was the same principle where most people didn't understood what is going on. Only the initiate will know what is happening. So the initiate will have these secrets because Anubis was preside or was the one who sit within as the master of secrets. So they will have these all secrets about incarnation, how people they incarnate, when they did incarnate. That is why the stories we get of the souls living in somewhere in the dead, and then there's a place for it. It's just lies. There's a true story of existence. There's umhlanga. When you pass the wall of judgment, you need to go umhlanga where Osiris sits. So there's more places within the dead that obviously exist, but they have symbiology. And when we talk about pureness and purity, they're not talking about pureness the way Christianity has told us, but they talk about your task in this world. Are you enlightened enough to understand everything that is happening around you? Because the death part, when we talk about death, it's about honesty, because death is about you being born here, you're going to experience that. So it's your individuality, in your individual task of life and the span of life. That is why you are carried by Anubis. Have you ever learned anything? Are you equipped? Hence why Anubis will open your mouth. That are you equipped with knowledge from wherever you are from? Hence why they will open you in the dead, because these principles and rituals, they were presided by priest of Anubis, especially in the deads, like the ceremonial rituals Menzi talked about, when he identified that we had mourning systems and rituals from 7 months to 3 months to 12 months, to all these cycles that we communicate. We knew that their communication to this particular dog, and that dog that reside towards our decaying, because our decaying is part of life somewhere. That is why he became what we call the Lord of the Sacred Land or Sacred Mountains.
Oh, man. Mkhulu, thank you so much for the contribution. And as you were talking, there are a few comments from Mukhaile. Do you want to add in terms of what Mkhulu was saying? Because I think it would be an injustice if I...
Togoza, it's going to be a quick one. You know, one of the reasons why we have to wait, if one of our loved ones passes, there's a necessity that we wait for the decaying. They don't tell us in the villages that we are waiting for the decaying process, but we are waiting that mourning period, right? It is at the completion of decaying. Don't ask me who calculated that it's going to take so many months, but that's what it is. At the completion of the decaying process, it is when the loved one. That is when Siambuis and now close. But I picked on it specifically on the decaying because the brother Giza spoke on the decaying. It is necessary that we wait for decaying. If you observe the news, we had news during the COVID where Abangoma were complaining that the action of putting the COVID bodies in a plastic bag is messing with our processes, right? What do they mean? A lot of people didn't understand this whole thing. What it means is the plastic that we put the body inside now messes with our process because the plastic bag now prevents our decaying process to start. And this is going to mess with our cycles. And that is where the complaint came from. And that other item that Brother Giza touched on of the dog staying with you throughout is, do you know, if you take a step back, just one step back, in Anunian mythology, our day to enter the cycle of living and our day to exit the cycle are all written before we actually come. So that dying is not something that we are trying to negotiate while we're here. No, Gessin to Sagit, we know death is here, and death we look at as a necessity. It is part of a process for certain things to happen. So we are not, as Africans, we don't spend our life trying to dodge death or trying to stay safe and not die. No. Dying is coming, and we know it's coming as a necessity. It is a thing, Bazalan, and that's what we need to educate our people. Those are the 2 points I wanted to touch on, Gogo. And that the opening of the mouth thing is we all learned about the opening of the mouth when we read the book. Who's the Mlungu Rosemary? Yes, Rosemary.
Luck.
So yes, Rosemary. We open the mouth. That is when the opening of the mouth is a Western version of us Sibuyis Itlozile to Ekai.
Interestingly,
No, the opening, sorry, I don't want to be misdirected so that everyone out there will mispractice and misinterpret what is said here. The opening of the mouth is of the individual, meaning when you die, same time, exactly at the very same time you die. That's why we have a particular ritual within those days. And then when you die and when you out there, you must open your mouth so that you can speak your hackers in the land of the dead, and so that you can communicate with them. That is what the Egyptian book said. So you don't have to misinterpret it by assuming. Hence why I said it straight direct. It's about experience. It's not about the book we read and what. No, that is why we left you symbols and science, because it's an experience. It's an initiation system. It's a system that we were initiated in and we were taught how it works. That is why one of the system in initiation, if people who are listening, they know that it's death. You need to experience death. That is why I'm able to communicate with the dead people. That is why I'm able to go to the realm of the dead and engage and pass through knowledge through, because the mouth has been open. When the mouth has been open, it's because you have access of some particular knowledge, or in simple language of Egypt, they will say Eka, magic.
Hello?
No, I think
Can you hear me?
is that. Yes.
Yes. So when we talk about that, we're talking about the phenomenon that Anubis reside in the world of the dead and even in the world of the living. And that is not only the decaying part, because this decaying has 9 stages. So these 9 stages need to be passed through, because a person consists of 9 souls. These are the teachings of initiate. Initiates, they know about that. It's an Egyptian principle understanding, and it applies even to an African stories and sagas. That is why Mveli Nqang was killed with 9 spears in the saga of him being crucified.
Excuse me a bit. I'm coming back.
Mkhulu, can we?
Hey, Coco.
No, you can continue, Mkhail.
Okay, while we're waiting for Uketla, when Giza, tell me about the name, because the name is also one of the issues that is discussed when you enter the gate. The 9 souls or elements you're referring to, one of them is our name. Can you, if you've got a shorter version of it, what role does our name play at the gate? And I say the gate because we now modernly use the gates of heaven. If you have a shorter version of it, please.
There's no gate in the dead. There's no gate. The name is used because you even call your ancestors through the names. You still call them, that's the name. It's an identification of the attributes of energy that exist. It's a secrecy that you'll never know. Only the experimented initiate. I can explain these things. I have noticed that the meantime you explain such systems, people will confuse them with what other system exists. Like in Europe, they have systems of how they bury. And when we go to Romania, it's a dog god and a wolf. And then they have names that they use to enter in the gates of Romania when you reach the dead. So these systems don't apply to us. When they talk about Anubis, they're talking about walls. They're not talking about gates. They're just talking about halls, chambers, and passages. And they are talking about the place of the reeds, where King Osiris resides as the King of Kings. And they will tell you about the other place and other places with other places. Officially, we don't have much to talk about. So they're not talking about gates. The word gate, we get it from the European aspect. Even in the Mayan, let's go to the Mayan, Yucatan, or the dog god of the dead. He has 9 realms of existence. Within these 9 realms, it's about the naming, the eka, the names. And your name is a quality of your heka. So I cannot explain this in other way. And the simplest way is that your name is a quality of your heka, and your heka is your soul. The meantime, we're busy enchanting you. Hey, Menzi, we are busy calling you. Hey, Muhalushi, we are busy enchanting it. That is an obvious magic. It's something that is obvious. It's a repetition of your name. It's the heka.
Yes, beloveds. I would like us to seal up at 11:30. I was hoping it was going to be 11, but these are topics which are very deep. They require patience and their time that they have. Mohaile, what you've just written here, but I'd like to not side because it's not a tournament, but I'd like to agree with Zamalek here about the issue of interpretation. It's important for us to found our thinking and our conversations on really, even if it's not experimental or experiential, let it at least be as Afrocentric as possible. I think, Mohaile, you go there, but at the same time, because of what we've read, you also you go towards the African, you are founded on the Afrocentric perspective of this, but at the same time, because of what we've read or what we read, if you just turn on the internet or you just pick up a book, whether it's by Clark or by the Afrocentric guys of North America, or the Central African guys of Theophilo Benga and all those guys, people approach so-called Egyptology and Kemetic sciences. They approach it from, the poo is for the birds. So they approach it. We approach it from different levels. When I speak about Theophilo Benga and people like what's his name, Sheikh Anta Diop, while we may not know what kind of initiation systems they've gone through, we know for sure that they studied. Their scholarship had a lot to do with etymology. They had a lot to do with the academic life, basically, as prefigured in the West. It's a Western scholarship, but some of them went further and looked at their own African cosmology in order to interpret Kemetic things. They link Kemet to various African cultures. They say, oh, this exists in Southern Africa. This exists in my country. This exists there. This exists there. This exists there. But a lot of the information that is out there is really a lot of white people's fascinations with Africa and specifically ancient Kemet. So it's important for us to divorce ourselves from their way of thinking. While not all of us we will get initiation because there's not a lot of schools. I don't know. Somebody can help me. Can I just tomorrow wake up and say I want to go to an initiation school, yes, a Kemet, which is African, besides what Baba Nsingiza is doing and a few others that I might not mention here that they are doing in their various schools. There's not a lot of places to go to. There's not a lot of information, you know.
Yes, that is why, pardon me to interject you. I wanted to say that is why initiation, it's about calling. You get called, and then you get to be called literally. People, they take it for granted. You get to be called literally. Even Baba Credo Mutwa talked about that he got to be called and they were talking telepathically. So you get to be called literally, and you get to be initiated literally and practically experience. So that you when you come to the people, you are telling them things you have experienced, that, oh, there's that, I know that, you can experience it while you are living. You can talk with dead people because you have already talked with them. You sat with them, you understood the principles that we are doing, rituals and rites, because you were taught. That is initiation. You were given time, they see you and give you all the details. But one can never just wake up and then say, I'm going to get initiated because I love reading books or internet, or reading books differently in different scholars where I travel with them. Initiation calls you, necessary calls you. What is within you, it will call you. And if your ancestors were initiated, that is where most people don't even know this. If they were initiated in old Egypt, they were part of that secret society or the scholar that made a civilization, then it will call you. You will be part of it. You will hear, you will talk the same language. You'll talk about being inside the pyramid, not touring the pyramid, but being inside the pyramid, because you have experienced that practically. You'll know teleporting. You'll know all about that experience as a book you have read.
Marco Umkulu, I think we may have lost Brother Menzi. I'm not sure what happened, but we may have lost Brother Menzi. Do we have any, given that we are drawing to the end of the session, I'd like to give thanks for the clarity that Brother Umkulu Zamalek has just brought through, because we may get carried away sometimes when we speak about certain concepts. But also I want us to also focus on something else that I think it's very important to start being very intentional in terms of the words that we speak, in terms of the usages and the examples, because and I say this because it's very easy for somebody who's new to these teachings to say, oh, okay, when we liken something to something else, which, oh, okay, so this is what they mean, where else we don't read, that's not what we really mean. It goes back to what we discussed last time when we say the issue about saying gods, it's not really, it doesn't really define the netero that we're talking about. The word God is gods is very limiting. And thank you again for highlighting that. Do we have
that
any?
That is true, Gogo. Sorry to interject. I know I like to speak a bit, but now that is true, Gogo. You are saying a right thing, that when we use wrong words, there's gullible people who are like now catching up to this information, and then they'll assume. That is why people are mixing it. They are saying it's about Christianity. We had Christianity, and they are using Christian concept to understand death, whereas we have a different form of understanding death. We know that the dead, we can communicate with them. There's no sin, there's no wrong with that. There's no bad thing. There's no God who have put a petitive on that and say you don't have to communicate with the dead. It only came with the Bible, and it's only written in the Bible.
Tamago. And you know, when we speak about death, it's very strange because we spoke about it a bit. I touched on this a bit earlier, and I said that, you know, it's not always a bad thing when death occurs, you know. And I made an example using plants that for us to get healing in terms of our physical body, the plant has to die, you know, and the death process in itself is much deeper, because the plant can be killed and then it rots and then you can't use it. But then there's another process where the plant dies, but then it doesn't necessarily develop mold as in the first instance, but then it dies in a way that it still preserves the healing properties and therefore is able to give life. In the same way where we can say, umasenza umsebenzi singabantu, you know, us as Black people, we always do umsebenzi, sihlaba imbuzi, sihlaba inkukhu, and we are asking for healing, you know. But then there's death in that process as well, because we have now slaughtered and there was a death of the animal that has occurred. But the death of the animal is not in vain because it brings healing. But then it becomes in vain if that ritual is not performed correctly. I'm not sure if I'm making any sense. Brother Mikhail.
Thokoza Gogo, I'm sorry, I was not raising my hand to answer the question you just asked now, but it was just for me to just make a final comment, because we're closing now in a minute, né?
Okay.
And my final comment is that on that reincarnation point, and Uguti, we must, guys, as the parents of today, né, try find out or establish if we are raising any of our ancestors today in our houses. It is very important, because we have got a duty to assist them in whatever project that they are back here on earth to come and complete. It is a very important item that I think the parents today must pay attention to. And that's where I'll leave the comment.
That is so profound. He said, I'm remembering an interview by Kulumada where he says that, but he speaks from a vendor perspective. And he says that when a vendor child is born, there's specific rituals that are done to assess the child, and that child is raised in accordance to the outcomes of those rituals. If the child has a gift of a calling to become a healer, then that child will not be raised in the same way as they would raise other children. They will be raised to be able to align that child to their purpose of why they're here. And I think what you're saying is quite profound. And I don't think very few of us still actually perform those rituals where we actually try to ascertain the path of the child. Mkhulu?
Somehow, Umukhaile had raised something about Ombete. Maybe he can had his insights about Ugumbata. What does it mean when a child is born Mbete?
When I'm cool, it is, for example, my understanding of it, and it comes from literatures, because, you know, we read, né? I will not claim any experience on this one. So, Ugumbata could mean several things. And one of them that I'm very familiar with is when a child is bringing back an older soul that has got items that they need to tick off their schedule here on earth. If it happens that a soul exits untimeously, that is, and untimeously now speaks to, remember Singabantu, we've got tricks. And one of the tricks we have is intercepting the natural plan. If it so happens that the natural plan is intercepted, we take a person away from earth, Tebula, or we do all sorts of things. That person could not be allowed to live their entire process out. So that person is going to be brought back, and it's going to be one of our children here at home. Uzo Figekaya Mbete. And it is our duty to find out, Uguti, Lomundu, why Mbete? Is he or she bringing back a person? Two, are they bringing gifts, certain gifts to this earth? And it could be other things. So that is what it generally means to me when I talk about Ugumbat, basically.
You know,
Yeah,
since
in a typical way, like it's basically always just gifts. But there are rituals, like you said, there are different rituals done to assist the person ombete to realize the fullness of their gifts. We will not go specifically into those rituals, but it's a customary. There are certain gifts that they are bringing for the family and for the community, and there are rituals done for them in order to assist them to realize those gifts and to recognize them and to realize them and to use them for the benefits of whoever needs to benefit.
I'm grateful, honorables. My last word will be that we have already talked about what Anubis does. Uwembata, it's embleming the same thing as a master keeper of the emblem. As I've said, that this guy or this kind of quality has that quality within the life and death, not only in death only. So masothi umuntu umbethe asikhulumi ngokuthi reincarnate or yini. Sikhuluma ngokuthi lo muntu lo anointed. That is why all men they were karast. Ukwembetha ukarast. Karast anubik. So ukwembetha ngokufa ukuthi wambethwa wena ngokubantu ukuthi uzokhuluma nabo. Noma wena wambethwa ngokuthi ube nolwazi lesendlulele ebantwini abafile. Noma wena uwe equality izinto so ukwembethwa, it means you were anointed, the anointed one. The one when they came here, they were emblem already. They were in the old times when they come, we used to emblem them with leopard skins and all those kind of things and our rituals. But now in this day and age, it's the one that carries the qualities of each and everything, not only reincarnation, but now the qualities of all the announcement of all the generation and generations. That is why it's called Ugwembeto. Someone who's already given the annotation. When it goes to gift, it's because when you're anointed, it's because you have gift.
That's powerful. That's powerful. Anointment, chrism, and karast, and all those terms that we've heard about have to do with anointing. Ugcobo. So uma uzelwe no gcobo lwakho, you are actually wembete. We can't be, I know there's no more time, but there's this, we were spoken about even the issue of burial, the modern way, whereby even the placenta is thrown, is shoved down the toilet. I don't know what they do in the hospitals. I think they cremate it, or the placenta, and including Ikhambi.
They use it for scientific research. That's why it's very difficult to get it back.
Stem cell research and all those kinds of things. But we bury the navel somewhere, and there's a ritual that is done for Umuntu Ombete also. This is a physical ritual that is done. So there's a lot. I think on our next session on Anpu, we will go into that, but I would like us to start again from that level of embalming, which Umkhulu has touched about. Embalming, because now he just gave us a summary of what embalming means, which was a very specific and powerful summary, by the way. But at the same time, we need to go back into Anpu now practicing it on Osar, when the soul becomes an Osar, who is ready now with the potential of being resurrected according to the walls, according to what the walls are telling us, the Meduneter are telling us. For some of us who are learning to read this Meduneter, we are finding that, yes, there were certain ritual where Anpu would preside over, but then it started amongst kings and royalties, but there were also ordinary people. Sometimes the Western people like to act as if it was only the rich who were doing it. But we know that, as Mkhulu Zamalek has mentioned, there is a calling aspect of it, and there is also a isintu say to, in almost every family, there are things that are done to prepare one into life and to prepare one into death and even after death. There's many rituals we can talk about ukubizwa, how to come back as a spirit to reside in your home, whether you're a father or whether you're a child of that home. How do you come back to work at your home as a living spirit, as a living close? With that, Mama Nkosi, I would like us to close. We will continue again. We will announce the next. Yes.
We've got one question that can be answered very quickly from Facebook.
Yes.
Slim Cat Keketso Keswa wants to know more about the 9 human souls. Is there a book that can be recommended for her to broaden her knowledge?
Yeah, but I've got a quick answer on that one. This subject, 9 souls, is also captured in the stolen
legacy.
Heritage, the stolen legacy. Yes, the stolen legacy.
By what? What's the author's name?
I forgot the gentleman's name, but he's an American. So I'll send it to you, Mkhulu. You can send it to your listener on Facebook.
No problem. Give thanks.
Yes,
Zamalek, does Zamalek have a reference for the 9 souls or the 9 dimensions of the human soul?
I don't have any practical author than archaeologists who have already put a record on what happened. So if one study Egyptian history or mythology, they will know about the 9 souls. That's Egyptian.
Okay.
And then when they study in Africa about tradition aspect and mythology, they'll understand these 9 souls, and it goes beyond if they study it in Paris rather than an author has a particular perspective.
Wonderful. Sister on Facebook, you can ask her to inbox us her email. We'll email her some literature and also some insights, as Zamalek said. Some insights are from our learned traditions that we live by, and some insights are from the books written by Africans at home and abroad. Thank you very much. Hetepu, have a wonderful Sunday. Ashe.
Thokozani,
Mark.
Doshe.